all set here, so we'll get going with Will Zalatoris. And Will, welcome to the Charles Schwab Challenge. And why don't you just sort of tell us where you're at after another really remarkable finish at a major championship?
Yeah, it's nice to be home. I've had a few days of rest, kind of process things, and it'd be fun to obviously play in front of friends and family again this week. It's kind of almost feeling like having 3 weeks at home in a weird way, considering Tulsa's just up the road, and then having the Nelson and obviously here. It's obviously super excited to be back out. Starting my week on a Wednesday is pretty strange for me, I'm not going to lie. I got out here today probably about, 11:30 on a Wednesday, which normally for me I probably would have played about 27 holes by now. So, but just trying to get the energy level, back a little bit. Obviously pretty tired from this past week. It didn't really hit me until the last couple days. So, but obviously game feels like it's in a really good spot. So I'll be pretty excited to hopefully contend here in front of friends and family.
And does it help maybe after such a stressful week coming to a place that feels like home to sort of get back into things?
Yeah, I mean, sleeping in your own bed obviously helps, and it's only a 30-minute drive, so it's kind of nice to. I've played this place a bunch, played here a lot in college. This is my second time playing this event, and it's a lot of fun. I mean, the crowds over here are pretty awesome and pretty rowdy, so it's. I'm looking forward to it this weekend.
Okay, and with that, we'll open it up for questions. We can start with Kevin right here in the front.
Will, how have you processed what happened Sunday, all of it?
I still am. I think, it was a blur for sure. I mean, it's obviously a position that I've wanted to be in my entire life, and it's obviously it stings to come up basically one shot short, but I think if anything, this is the closest I've been. So I know that we're doing the right things. I believe I can do it. I now know I can be one of, you guys out here say it to themselves because that's what obviously you're supposed to do, where you think you can be or you are one of the best players in the world. And I now firmly believe that. And, sorry if that's arrogant, but I think there is a difference, and I mentioned this last week in the media, when people are asking, hey, Scotty, what was the difference between you winning, your major in the 4 events that you won and, not winning over the last 2 years? And he just said it's belief. And I think this past week, being under the gun and, JT played an absolutely flawless playoff, and, I was obviously one shot short of that, and so being able to handle that pressure under the gun is awesome.
We'll stick with Randy.
Will, just wanted to ask, 2 weeks ago at the Nelson, it's a very wide open, low scoring event. Then you have a major up in Tulsa. Now you have a very, kind of narrow target golf, I guess, course you could say. I mean, as a pro, does that change week to week? Is it something you look forward to, or how do you manage having those 3 different courses that are very different in that regard?
Yeah, that's a very good point. I mean, any major obviously typically plays pretty hard. The Nelson is perennially going to be a year where the 20-plus under is going to win. And then here, we've had years where 20 unders won, and you've had years where 6 unders won. And, it's just different each week. Obviously we're trying to check all the boxes in our game, but there's just different stresses on different aspects of your game. This week you want to hit as many fairways as you can. Obviously super small greens, so this week in particular is a pretty good place for ball strikers. Granted, you've had a lot of great putters that obviously have won here too, but it's a very funny golf course how basically 3 feet can be the difference in you making birdie or bogey very quickly, and I think that speaks wonders to this golf course.
One follow-up to you being a Dallas area native. Did you attend this tournament as a kid growing up at all with your family?
Yeah, I did once. I came, I want to say it was 07. I mean, I still have the signed hats from, because we went to the Nelson and the Colonial, and back when they had the international final qualifying, which was actually at the course in basically my parents' backyard for the British Open. And so we went back to back to back to see them all, and I still have that hat that was signed by a bunch of guys that were in this tournament, and it's kind of funny. It kind of brings everything full circle, you know, when I'm signing autographs for kids after a round.
Rex, straight in the back.
Well, the bunkers last week were kind of a topic of conversation. It seems like a lot of guys were split on the idea that they were a different kind of challenge versus maybe they were too much. Do you have an opinion on that?
Yeah, I mean, my bunker play last week was great, so you're probably going to get a more positive attitude out of me than the other guys. You know, I think one thing that I think that was eye-opening to me as an amateur golfer was when we went down to Australia to play in the Masters of the Amateurs, playing at Royal Melbourne. You know, their bunkers are hazards. I mean, they're not meant to be perfect. I mean, it's basically a dugout hole with sand in them, and that's how bunkers are, pretty much internationally. And on the PGA Tour, we're spoiled week in, week out with amazing conditions, you know, the best agronomy staff pretty much every single week, playing the best golf courses. And so, you know, I hate being kind of the, hey, go play better, but, you know, if you're hitting it in bunkers, you're probably not going to be playing well to begin with. So I thought that, you know, I played out of them great last week. I mean, I made some really good up and downs out of them. So, of course, like I said, I do have that bias. But, you know, I think when I went to Australia and realizing, like, hey, it's not supposed to be perfect sand, the perfect 4 inches of sand in every spot, I think that just kind of made me realize, like, hey, bunkers are hazards, essentially.
Back to Kevin in the front.
Well, how do you recalibrate after a week like the one you had last week? You're back here just days later, getting ready to start another tournament. How do you reset?
Yeah, I have no idea. No, I mean, I try to make sure that, you know, I like I said, I got a lot of rest the last few days. I mean, I practically just slept. I mean, I didn't realize how tired I really was. You even kind of still hear it in my voice a little bit, but you know, it's back to work. I mean, it's you know, like I've mentioned before, that you know, my career goal is to win a major, and you know, now the prep starts for the U.S. Open, and Brookline I think Brookline was the hardest golf course I'd ever played. I think it still might be. I mean, I haven't played Oakmont, but that setup that we had for the U.S. Amateur there in 2013 was by far the hardest competitive golf course I've ever played. So I'm not typically like hard golf courses.
Well, a lot's been made about your putting. A lot of success early last week, first in strokes gained on the green. What have you been doing that's been working, and how do you feel about your overall state of putting right now?
Yeah, you know, I mean, I had a really good couple days with Josh leading up to the week. You know, I think the part that's great for me is, excuse me, is being able to obviously, you know, see the failures and being able to go back and, you know, kind of eat humble pie and say, okay, you know, what was your attitude, you know, over these certain putts, or what did we do wrong? Which I think I mean, you know, when I'm sitting there watching it, I, you know, want to throw the remote and, you know, break the TV because I know that I'm going to, you know, miss. But, you know, at the same time, I think it's putting myself under pressure and knowing that, you know, my putting's going to hold up. And I think that's something that I definitely learned this past weekend. And, you know, making the putts on 17 and 18 were huge for me and something that I'll never forget. And, you know, we've just basically been trying to just stick to the basics. You know, we've tried a lot over the last year to almost be too perfect, and I got in my own way. And now I'm trying to be a lot more reactionary, and I think it's helped. I mean, I really do. I mean, I got off to a slow start this year, but obviously it's picked up over the last few weeks.
One quick follow-up. You mentioned attitude there. Last week it seemed like you just had such a good demeanor about you. You were there enjoying the course, enjoying the event. Where does that come from, the ability to kind of check out and just enjoy what you're in right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think it even goes back to, you know, Thursday, Friday, playing in front of Tiger. I mean, that was the first time that I had been able to watch him inside the ropes. And that course was so tight and intimate, you know, where tee boxes were crossing over other holes, and so there were a lot of times where I had to stop and, you know, watch him play. And, you know, there all these, you know, you've heard the vets say, like, hey, just don't watch him, you know, you play your own game. And it's like, I mean, come on, you know, this is the first time I get to see him really play in person, and, you know, see the crowds. I mean, the crowds Thursday, Friday, I thought were bigger Saturday, Sunday, at least in my groups. And, I mean, it was nuts. I mean, I played a practice round in front of him on Wednesday, and it was 35 people deep on 8. I mean, it was just absurd. But being able to just appreciate those moments, you know, and kind of just be present and enjoy it. I mean, that's why to me, I almost felt like imposter syndrome, where you know, I look back on it and think, oh wow, you know, that you were in the playoff for a PGA championship. But at the same time, my job was just to hit the best golf shot I possibly could. So I think really, like I said, kind of going back to his question about processing everything, you know, I still am for sure. But there's a lot of things that, you know, obviously the coverage shows the golf shots, but the stuff in between the golf shots, like watching Tiger and seeing the crowds and all that, is something that I'll never forget.
Final questions for Will? Okay. Thank you.